Hour with a blow to the Trump administration's deportation efforts. Late Friday, the Supreme Court extended a pause on deportations of Venezuelan migrants in northern Texas under the Alien Enemies Act. The ruling grants a request from a group of Venezuelans to have more time to raise legal objections. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security is asking the Pentagon for more than 20,000 National Guard members to assist in the president's crackdown on immigration. If approved, it would be the first time in U.S. history that National Guard troops would help with immigration enforcement at the border. Also, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem is making it clear that President Trump would be well within his rights to suspend habeas corpus, that is, denying constitutional rights to arrested migrants if he chooses to do so. Add to that reports that say Noem's department is considering the idea of participating in a reality television show where migrants compete for citizenship. Lord help us. Joining us now to unpack this and more, Democratic Congressman Joaquin Castro of Texas and the co-host of the Strict Scrutiny podcast, Leah Littman. She's also the author of Lawless, How the Supreme Court Runs on Conservative Grievance, Fringe Theories, and Bad Vibes. Thank you both very much for being here. Congressman, let me start with you. Your reaction to the proposal. I can't even believe we are talking about this. The proposal to have migrants compete for citizenship on a reality television show. And what does this say? You tell me whether this is unserious, demonstrates the unseriousness of this administration.
Well, a few things. First, during this Trump administration, this Republican administration, it seems like every day we lose more and more of our humanity. And the second part is that President Trump installed the least qualified, most incompetent cabinet, perhaps in American history, certainly in a century. And that's why we're getting such bad policies out of these folks. And, you know, the idea that you would do a reality show to have people compete for citizenship, it's just it's a sick idea. And if Kristi Noem really wants to go to Hollywood, then she should quit the cabinet and pitch a show to Hollywood and leave. But to take this kind of sick idea there really is just unserious and unbecoming of a cabinet secretary.
So, Leah, one of the things that the congressman is referring to is this idea that it becomes a squid game of sorts, right? That we are losing our humanity in the process. But is that their point? Is cruelty part of how they are ensuring that the cabinet, the Department of Justice, the Homeland Security, all weaponize them so that they basically scare folks, not just immigrants, but American citizens as well?
I think that's exactly right. I think they are trying to criminalize political opposition, which in some cases just means the existence of people that they don't actually want to be in the country. You know, why not just divide up the country into 12 districts and select 2 children who, you know, war to the death and call it Hunger Games? This is basically what they've been doing. They're turning people's suffering and pain into entertainment and using that as their politics because they're not actually improving anyone's lives. So they just want to be able to entertain people by the suffering of others.
Congressman, you and other lawmakers visited a deported 11-year-old U.S. citizen with a brain tumor. It happened on May 9th. Talk to the people watching and listening to your voice right now about what you saw and what it tells you about the moment that we're in.
I mean, it was incredible to be there with a young girl and her family. She's a U.S. citizen. Most of her siblings are U.S. citizens. And when they were detained in Sarita, Texas, at what is an inland border checkpoint, the family had a letter because she had just had a brain tumor removed recently. They had a letter saying that she was going up for medical care, and the agents detained the family, called them criminals, bullied them, intimidated them, told the parents that if they didn't take all their kids with them, they were going to place those kids with strangers and not any relatives or family. You know, and so we get into the debate. You know, you hear people say, well, these undocumented folks who have U.S. citizen kids, well, they just decided to take their kids with them. I mean, these people were detained shortly and then deported, and the parents were threatened that if they didn't take the kids were going to end up with strangers. They didn't go in front of an immigration judge. They weren't able to talk to a lawyer. And so that's not a choice. But unfortunately, this lack of due process and not following the rule of law is what we're seeing under Donald Trump. And then probably, most stunning to me in terms of the cruelty and the inhumanity, and really seeing these people, they said they felt like they were treated like animals, is the girl was taking a seizure medication because as a condition of this brain tumor, she sometimes gets seizures. She's got to take that medication every day. The agents took away that medication and refused to give it back to the family. So that girl left the country with no seizure medication that they had to scramble to get later on. She hasn't been able to get treatment in Mexico like she needs it. And, so she's struggling to get the cure that she needs now.
Congressman, let me get your reaction to something else that is cruel. This is Secretary Noem refusing to answer a direct question from your colleague, Congressman Robert Garcia of California, inquiring about the wellness and well-being of Andrew Hernandez Romero, the gay makeup artist who was wrongfully deported to that horrible prison in El Salvador. Listen to this, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
His mother just wants to know if he is alive. Can we check and do a wellness check on him?
Our asylum applications are different than the granting of asylum, and I don't know the specifics of this individual case. This individual is in El Salvador, and the appeal would be best made to the president and to the government of El Salvador on this.
We've
This
made
is
that.
not under my jurisdiction.
You and the president have the ability to check if Andrew is alive and if he's not being harmed. Would you commit at least into looking and asking El Salvador if he is alive?
This is a question that's best asked to the president and the government of El Salvador.
Congressman, that is her response is simply, as an American, simply outrageous. Your thoughts?
No, you're right. I mean, look, it's somebody unwilling to not only not be accountable and not take responsibility, but also not even say, yeah, you know what, I'll check in and make sure that this person is okay. I mean, she can't even do on a very basic human level, and really what we would expect of any government official to be able to say, okay, well, I don't know exactly what's going on, but let me find out, and then I'll report back to you, the Congress, that is supposed to have oversight of the work that she does. And so this is the most corrupt, most unaccountable, least transparent administration that we've had in quite a long time. And remember, they said that Donald Trump on the campaign trail said he was going to round up violent criminal immigrants, that he was going to round up criminals, and has not given any indication that this person they're talking about or most of the other people that they rounded up and sent to a gulag in El Salvador are criminals.
So something that the congressman is saying is basically this is not part of our values, Leah. And I do think that what I found most striking with Secretary Noem is, and what the experience that the congressman describes, speaking to a U.S. citizen who happens to be a minor, who cannot vote, it's almost as if they're using these children and immigrants, their parents, as case studies, as canaries in the coal mine. What kind of wake-up call should this be for every single American citizen right now if someone who is a minor but a U.S. citizen basically is being sent like that and treated less than human?
I think we should absolutely be concerned that the administration's policies are going to be extended to absolutely everyone, because if they are treating a child without due process and just shipping them out of the country without giving them access to a lawyer, there's nothing that stops them from doing that to anyone else. If they are asserting the authority to just declare any one person a threat to the country or not belonging here, and then able to ship them again to this other country, potentially a foreign mega prison, and then assert that they don't have the authority to bring them back, as all of the judges who have been overseeing these cases noted, nothing stops them from making the same claim as to any of us and just hauling political officials or judges or you and me off the streets and shipping us out of the country as well.
Congressman, one of the things that has been really fascinating, maybe heartening over the last few months as these kinds of things have worked out, whether it's the Abrego Garcia case, right? You have in Iowa, Chuck Grassley's at this town hall, and Republicans in his district are like, bring that man back, he needs due process. So how do, Democrats, people who care about the rule of law and the Constitution, remind Americans why they should care about this, right? Because the political pressure is just as important as the legal and the cultural pressure.
No, you're right. I mean, I've heard, and I've actually been surprised time and again that in different town halls around the country, even in areas where you don't have a large Latino population or immigrant population, that people have been very angry about the lack of due process for folks, because I think they understand to the point that they could be next. That, you know, historically we see that authoritarian governments, that people who bully and take away the rights of folks, that they move from group to group. And I think Americans rightfully fear that it could be coming for them, whether it's in 6 months or a year or in 2 years. And I do think that that messaging, which is important, is getting through to people.
Congressman Joaquin Castro and Leah Littman, congratulations on your book, and thank you both. Very timely topic.